Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at my guild's Mythic Eye of the Jailer kill. So we were lucky enough to kill this last night. It took us 9 pulls. So we wiped 8 times and we killed it on the 9th. And in those 9 pulls, I felt like I personally got a pretty good grasp on the optimal cooldown usages on this fight, so I wanted to go through. That's going to be the main point of this video, is to talk about when you should be using your cooldowns on Mythic Eye of the Jailer, because it's not super straightforward. Although I will say your mileage will vary, because the kill time on this boss can depend on several things. So if your kill time is similar to what our kill time was, then these cooldowns should work pretty well for you. But if your kill time is significantly longer or quite a bit shorter, then your kill time may mean that your cooldowns are less optimal if you use them the way I use them, right? So this is just to give you an idea of the thought process that I have when I'm trying to figure out when's the best time to use my cooldowns and things on bosses in progression, right? So I'm not going to talk too much about mechanics and stuff. I just want to, talk about like Shadow Priest specific things. So let's get into it. On pull, you want to just basically, same way you pull any single target boss, pre-cast a Vampiric Touch, follow it up with a Shadow Word Pain, and then I'm playing Naya, so I'm going to do Fey Guardians, Mindbender. Right after my Mindbender, I'm going to press my Soul-Letting Ruby. A lot of people save their Soul-Letting Ruby for when they first get into Void form, but I kind of disagree with that. I think it's better to use it, because of the travel time, I think it's better to use it right after your Mindbender or pretty early into your rotation. If I was standing like up here at the edge next to the Eye of the Jailer, then it would be better to use it later so that I get crit throughout my whole Void form. But because I'm so far away, pressing it right after my Mindbender means it'll get to me right as I start to need it in my Void form, right? So you want to get the crit buff from your Soul-Letting Ruby right about the same time that you press Power Infusion. You don't want to be starting the crit buff coming towards you right when you press Power Infusion, right? You want to get it right at that time. So it's going to be Vampiric Touch, Shadow Word Pain, Fey Guardians, Mindbender, Soul-Letting Ruby, Shadow Word Death, Mind Blast, and then you open into Void form, and then your first global in Void form is going to be a Void Bolt, and right after that Void Bolt, I'll press my Power Infusion and my potion of Spectral Intellect, by the way. We use int pots, and then I'm just going into my Void form rotation. So if we watch Vampiric Touch, Shadow Word Pain, Fey Guardians, Mindbender, Ruby, Shadow Word Death, Mind Blast, Void form. And then this is one of the problems with this boss. This first dodge mechanic, Fracture Soul, comes out within the first 10 seconds of the fight. So there are going to be times where you have to move before you can finish getting into your opener. And that is super annoying. If you can, try to move while you're on your global cooldown. So like cast a Void Bolt and then move, which is kind of what I did here. And you can also use instant cast abilities while you're running, right? So during the opener, I replaced my first Mind Blast with a Devouring Plague because I was moving out of this swirly right here. So if you look over here, the plan was Void Eruption, Void Bolt, PI, Potion, Mind Blast, but instead of a Mind Blast, I used a Devouring Plague because I had to move out of this circle, right? So then as soon as I get to where I'm moving, I should cast that Mind Blast, and then it'll be Void Bolt, Mind Blast, Devouring Plague, something like that. So I do cast this next Mind Blast, I Void Bolt, Devouring Plague, Mind Blast, and then you'll notice I get this big circle on me. This is the chains, so I take it to triangle, which means I can't stand still and cast again, right? So I should be using, Void Bolts and Devouring Plagues to move, and then you can also use Shadow Word Death or Shadow Word Pain, but Void Bolt and Devouring Plague, especially while you're in Void form, are your big time priorities. And then, so I get to the triangle spot, and it starts dragging us. And something you can do while this is dragging you, you can move a decent amount during your cooldowns without losing any damage, as long as you're like planning things right and you kind of know the priority, right? So you want to get as many Shadow Flame Rifts out as possible, which means you want to cast Shadow Word Death and Mind Blast as many times as you can while your Mindbender is up. But like when there's these swirlies coming out, there are times where you can't do that, right? So you want to try and cast those Mind Blasts in opportune moments where you're not going to have to cast them while you're dodging something in the future. I don't know how much sense that makes, but you want to try and line up things so that you know a mechanic is coming out, and you can be like, okay, when this next Fracture Soul comes out, I'm going to be okay because I have a Void Bolt ready and I have a Devouring Plague ready and all this stuff, so I can be moving during that time when you might typically be standing still. So I move sideways. And then another thing with this chain, if you know how long it's going to be pulling you, then you can stop running away from it and it'll just drag you towards the edge. But if you know it's going to stop dragging you before it takes you off the edge, then you can be casting instead of running away, right? That's another small optimization you can do. Right here, I re-up my dots. Oh, I'm playing Sinful Revelation on this boss as well. And then, yeah, so I re-up my dots. I get back to the center where we want to be. This Deathlink comes out. The Deathlink will hit the tank and then reflect a bunch of that damage to other people, to the entire raid. And so I fade as often as I can when those Deathlinks are coming out, just to take less AoE damage, 5% less or whatever it is from Translucent Image. And then it's important that you dot these ads every time. Some groups will focus these ads down. I think it's good to keep most of your damage on the boss and then hit those ads with Incidental Cleave, which for Shadow Priests is basically just put your 2 dots on it and let your ghosts hit it. And then right here is the Intermission, right? So up till now, I've cast my Mindbender twice. I've cast my Void Form once for on pull, right? And now we're getting into the Intermission, and we're about a minute and a half into the fight, right? So my Void Form has been up for a bit now, but I didn't cast it again at the end of Phase 1 because I knew that the Intermission was coming, and this is when I like to use it. So what I would suggest is use your first Void Form on pull, save the second one for the Intermission. There's an argument to be made here about whether you should hold this Void Form for this PI and this Mindbender that are coming up, but in my opinion, I think that's bad. I think you're going to lose the use of Void Form if you do that, depending on your kill time, of course. So right here, I should pop Fey Guardians, my Mind Blast, and then Void Form. This will give you extra mastery that you're getting from Void Form, right? So the reason I pop Fey Guardians there. 1, I'm playing Naya, so I get this Grove Invigoration buff, which means my mastery is 17% right now. And when you get into Void Form, you get full benefit of Shadow Weaving, which is our mastery, which means I get 17.7% times 3, which is like 52%, or 53.1%, I think, exactly. You get that much extra damage on whatever target you're hitting, right? So Fey Guardians before Void Form is helpful for the cooldown reduction, and that's why most people do it, but it has an added benefit of giving you extra mastery so that you do more damage, right? So I pop my Fey Guardians and my Void Form right here, and then I'm just doing my single target rotation, right? I should be using my Dark Thoughts procs while I'm channeling Mind Flay. That's something that if you're not doing that, you should be, especially when you don't have to move. It's good to use Dark Thoughts procs while you move, but it's better to use them while you're not moving and channeling Mind Flay. And then what my group was doing is at 5 stacks, we would take these Warlock Gates and swap to the other side. So before you do that, you want to re-up your dots on the one that you're hitting, and then you can move to the other side so that you still get ghosts on that first eye, and you're doing stuff to this guy. And then you'll notice I used my third Mindbender and my Power Infusion at that moment, right, while I was still on that eye. I have Void Form coming up in 10 seconds, and I will not be using it immediately. I'm going to hold it for when we get into the next phase, because it'll line up with the Mindbender, which is pretty nice. So even though my Void Form is up right now, I'm not using it, right? And then I should also, my Mindbender only has a couple seconds left, so I should not use this next Shadow Word Death or Mind Blast until I've popped this Mindbender. So I have Fey Guardians, Mindbender, Shadow Word Death, Mind Blast. The reason for that is that same mastery thing, right? So I pop Fey Guardians before Mindbender, Shadow Word Death, and Mind Blast so that I'll get the extra mastery damage from those 2 Shadow Flame Rifts that I cast with Shadow Word Death and Mind Blast. A lot of people have asked me in the past, why do you do Fey Guardians before Mindbender in your opener? That is the exact same reason as this, right? You want Fey Guardians for the extra mastery from Grove Invigoration for those 2 Shadow Flame Rifts, and then you get into Void Form. You lose like a little bit of cooldown reduction on Void Form, but that doesn't matter like at all in most cases. So now I get into Void Form. I still have the buff of Grove Invigoration, which means I'm doing extra damage. I get this slow thing on me. That's one thing I'll mention. When these slows come out, they start ticking people pretty quickly. So it's important that you stay pretty spread out as ranged. When you come in from the intermission, though, you still have your dot, your Scorn or Ire debuff. So don't go too close to the people with the other one or you'll explode, right? You have less room to spread out because you need to all stay on one side. But there were times when we were progressing on this boss where these 3 debuffs were all stacked on top of each other, and there were 3 people who were really close to each other, and all 3 went on those 3 people, and all 3 people died because it just ticked them down. They got 3 ticks, right, and it killed them pretty quickly. So if you stay spread out with these, it makes it easier to take them out of the raid, and you won't have people dying randomly when you get bad RNG and it goes on people who are on top of other people, right? So here's another death link. I should fade. I do fade this, and then it reduces the damage I take. And then, yeah, we're on the Stygian Abductor now. You got a laser beam coming out. Another thing I'll mention, if you're playing Night Fae Shadow Priest, which I would suggest you do, don't try to soul shape that beam. I did it on the PTR a couple times. It's definitely doable. It's just not worth it at all, especially on prog. Soul shaping that beam, all it does is gives you a couple extra seconds to keep hitting the boss, right? And while that is good, right, that it's definitely nice to have more uptime on the boss, the alternative is if you don't make it across, right, if you miss, you die, right? You're just dead. And then you have 0 uptime on the boss. So this is my next Power Infusion and Mindbender combo. I'm focusing the boss again. This Power Infusion and Mindbender combo is kind of rough because you have to move for a laser beam during it, but I don't really see a better time to use it. Maybe right after that beam, but it's important that you use it pretty quick because, at least with where my group decided to lust, you want to have your cooldowns up for lust, which we're going to do right at the start of phase 3. So this last moment, the boss is going to push here pretty soon in a couple percentage. I have another Void Form ready, and in the past I was using this Void Form right before we got into Intermission 2, and I might use it on this pull, I'm not sure. It's just that it feels really bad because we got moments where we stopped damage on the boss. Like right here, I'm not hitting the boss at all. We've called to stop damage. So if I'm in Void Form right now and we have to stop damage, that feels really, really bad, right? So I just hold on to this Void Form. We're going to do this laser, we're going to kill this boss, and then we're going to go into Intermission 2, and that's when I'll have my Void Form and my Fey Guardians running, right? The other problem is we were having some DPS issues on the 2 ads in the intermission. There were times where they didn't die in time during prog, and so we decided to just have Shadow Priests pop CDs on the eyes of the jailer, the Death Seeker eyes, in intermission. So that's another reason why I was holding my CD there. Although you can probably, there's an argument to be made about whether you can get another Void Form in or not by this time, right? Because if I did pop Void Form on cooldown in phase 2, then it would be coming up for this eye like 10 seconds before my Mindbender and my PI come up right here. I think this is just the safer and easier way to do it, is pop Void Form, save Void Form, and then pop it right into Intermission 1, or Intermission 2, I mean. And then right now my Mindbender and my PI come up. I use my Mindbender, but I don't use my PI, because I want to make sure, we've got like 40 seconds until 7 minutes. 7 minutes is about when phase 3 is going to start for us, and that's when I'll pop all my cooldowns, which means I've got like enough time to get a pretty good Mindbender out, and it should be up close to in time for Lust, but I do not have enough time to use Power Infusion and have it up for Lust. So we'll see how close I was on this call right here. Also, that white circle in that barrier right there was like impossible to see. So this eye that we're focusing right here is a little bit behind. It's important that these die at the same time. I've got like 15 seconds left until Mindbender, so I'm a little bit off. I would like it to be ready to go like right about now. I'm casting some Shadow Mends on myself, and actually this timing worked out almost perfectly. So I'm going to pop Fey Guardians, I pop my Potion, I used my Mind Blast before my Mindbender just because I had a couple seconds left on CD, and then yeah, I'm just into the Lust big rotation, right? I should be soaking this. I didn't get there in time, so I have to, I'm not getting change, right? So I stay out, and then yeah, we're just blasting like crazy right here. You can ignore this ad. In phase 3, it's kind of a rush. You get this stacking debuff, right? Once this hits 10, you can't be healed at all. So it's important that you you have to kill the boss by the time this hits 10, right? Or else you're all going to die. So I'm focused. Everybody should be focusing the boss, and you should totally ignore this Stygian Abductor. For Shadow especially, hitting this guy does nothing for our single target damage. And the boss is about to die, so I'll just recap real quick. Mindbender, you pretty much use on cooldown here on this boss. Void Form, you want to use once during the P1 phases, so once in phase 1 and once in phase 2, and then you want to be using it in the intermissions, so once in Intermission 1 and once in Intermission 2, and then you can have everything lined up for Lust at the beginning of phase 3, and that's when you have your PI, your Mindbender, and your Void Form all ready to go. Your PI as well, you use it on cooldown up until about 6 minutes, and then you hold your last one before phase 3. Don't use that in Intermission 2. Save it until you get to the beginning of phase 3, and then use it during Lust. So that's how you want to line up your cooldowns on this boss. That's the end of the boss. Eye of the Jailer defeated, feels good. We also killed the 9 later on this night, so keep an eye out for that video. It'll be coming soon. Just want to say thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure you leave a like. If you really liked it, feel free to subscribe, share it with your friends or whatever. Check the description for links to my Twitch channel, my Discord if you want to chat, stuff like that. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.